Hello, my name is John Reynolds. Welcome to Extraordinary Life Stories. On this episode, I'm talking with Julia Bradbury. Julia is a renowned television presenter, journalist and environmental advocate, best known for her work on popular nature and travel documentaries like Countryfile and Britain's Best Walks. In 2021, Julia faced a personal battle when she was diagnosed with breast cancer. Following a successful recovery, she has openly shared her journey, writing Walk Yourself Happy, highlighting the healing power of nature and the positive impact it can have on our mental and physical health. I'm really looking forward to talking with Julia, so let's get into it. Julia, thank you for joining me.
It's a pleasure. I'm just honoured to be part of this.
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah.
And I know how busy you are, so I really, really value the fact that you've come to talk to me today.
It's a pleasure.
Tell me, who is Julia Bradbury?
Gosh, that's a tricky one. I bet everybody starts with a bit of a tongue in the cheek, rolling eyes answer to that. So Julia Bradbury is an Irish, Greek, Welsh television presenter who's been on British screens for 25 years and started life in the TV world in the entertainment space. So my first big break was working out in Los Angeles for what is now GMB. It was called something else back then because I've been around for that long that it's even changed its name. And I was a young reporter. I was ambitious. I'd made my first couple of breaks into television, and they got this big break to go out and be this Hollywood correspondent.
That must have been cool.
It was hugely cool and daunting and frightening, and I was very, very green and didn't quite know how to tread the politics and handle all of that. But steep learning curve. And yes, definitely some great notes for the memoirs, you know, interviewing George Clooney and Arnold Schwarzenegger and Tom Hanks and Michael
Proper
Douglas.
Hollywood.
Buying my pants next door to Julia Roberts on Melrose. All sorts of great little gems. Very unimportant in the life scale scheme of things, but quite...
Not many people can say they've done that though, right?
Quite nice to tell your grandkids or your kids that you've done that kind of stuff. And then I came back to the UK, and I won't give you a long-potted, boring history of my career, but I ended up having a pivot. And I think it's important in any career to have a pivot and recognize the momentum of that pivot and know where it's taking you and how you can expand your growth on the basis of that. And I started making some series in the Lake District, which were following in the footsteps of a walker, a hiker called Alfred Wainwright, who's very well known in the outdoor circles. He's a god. He's written these 13 beautiful pictorial guides. He is somebody who himself fell in love with the Lake District. So this was sort of a mashup of Alfred Wainwright walks with me in doing the Alfred Wainwright bit in his steps. And the audience just loved them. They were just very responsive. There was a really warm connection to them and to me immediately. And from that point on, the outdoor space became something that I realized was very important to people. I would get letters and emails from 90-year-old men who loved what I was doing because they couldn't do it anymore, and they liked to see me, fresh-faced and all sort of wide-eyed, doing this thing. I got women saying, I'm going walking now because of you. I'm taking on my own challenges, and everything in between. So I was reaching quite a broad audience. And then I sort of started a franchise of my own walks, and I've taken them to almost every channel, and they're sort of Julia Bradbury's, whatever walks they are.
It's synonymous with you, isn't it? But what about the acting, and not the acting, the presenting and the TV side of things? Because I wanted to really know the background on the love of the outdoors and the walking. Well, but also the kind of, the whole wanting to be in that sort of limelight in the Hollywood world and so on. Where did that come from? Who and what influenced that?
So I didn't really want to be in the limelight. I recognised fairly early on that I wasn't bothered by any of this. I don't care that the microphone is here, that the lights are on. You and I were talking about it before we began speaking. This never bothered me.
You're totally at home in
and
this.
Still doesn't bother me. So I can be myself to a degree.
So of course, were you in all the school plays?
We're all different versions of ourselves. So yeah, I did school plays. And my first professional gig was as a mermaid at the Sheffield Crucible Theatre in a version of Peter Pan.
And how old were you then?
It was like 11 or 12.
Yeah, so this is early.
Yeah,
cool.
This was early doors.
That's what I wanted to know, because I could imagine that, but I didn't know that.
I went to drama school. My mum sent me to drama school. I wasn't very good at school academically, so she saw that I needed an outlet and I needed to find something that I was good at and something that I enjoyed. So I did all of those things. I'm a bit of a classic case when you look at lots of us like that, not great at academics, but a bit of a show off.
Yeah. I think that's awesome because school doesn't necessarily teach you that. The education curriculum. And yet also I know you're super bright, and I've listened to some of the podcasts that the little bit of positive that the whole through 2020, right? There's a natural vibe and positivity that comes from you. Have you always had that?
I think I've always been very, very curious. I'm quite disillusioned with the educational system anyway, because it's a bit like the medical world that says one size fits all, take this pill, you'll be fixed. Here, do this system, and it works for most. And it doesn't work for most because we're all individuals, of course, but we all have strengths and weaknesses that we need to play to. I genuinely, yes, there are students who are fantastic at sitting inside for 8 hours a day at a desk learning and can get through the exams. Certainly there are. But I think if you took even those students out of that environment, put them into an outdoor environment, say, and taught them the same curriculum but in a different way and in an outdoors world, I think they would benefit as well. But I know that the whole other population of students would flourish and thrive in a way that they don't in a classroom. Simple things. I mean, from a scientific point of view, if a child is sitting in a classroom and does an exam at the end of the day, the air quality is not as it's not as pure, it's not as clean, and it's denser, it's laden with carbon dioxide. Their concentration levels are going to be worse. Simple fix. Don't do exams in the afternoon, and don't do them in rooms crammed with 100 students, because you're all literally sucking the oxygen from each other and not giving everybody an even playing field.
No, and actually this taps into something that's really close to your heart as well, the whole getting out in natural light and fresh air. You know, there's no kind of clear structure at schools, you know, apart from short breaks and so on, to really encourage the whole embracing nature and sport. Because you can slip out of that. That's my point. So if you're interested in music, you can do music instead of sport and so on. Whereas you and I know just how important it is to keep physically fit, to keep mentally stimulated.
Yeah, I mean, children, none of us are taught in school how to down-regulate. We're not taught how to concentrate. We're not taught how to calm our stressful nervous systems. We're not taught about breath work. We're not taught about meditation. And I don't mean meditation as in losing yourself to another world and going into a transcendental state. I mean the meditation of sitting with yourself, even if it's just for 2 minutes, to bring everything inwards, to calm yourself, to then move forward with your task.
Yeah, and how valuable would that be, particularly with ADHD on the up and all these
neuro... And then put them outside to do that. You touched on it. Natural light, hugely beneficial to us, way beyond it helps us create vitamin D. When you get the morning light in your eyes within the first half hour of waking up, you actually kickstart a hormone cascade in your body. Your retina corresponds to a part of the brain called the SCN, the central bit of the brain, which then delivers a message to your whole body, and your hormones start to operate in the way that they're meant to, getting you ready, not just for the day ahead, but for the night ahead. So melatonin is affected because you need melatonin to sleep well. Yeah. That morning light has an impact on that. Serotonin is important because it helps you. It's one of the many, I hate to label them in very simplistic terms, but one of the happy hormones. Serotonin comes from your gut. That's impacted by morning light. Your whole mood and your biochemistry is impacted if you get the morning light and if you move within the first half hour of waking up. And of course, this is ancient wisdom. This isn't something that our ancestors needed to be taught, because that's what they did. They got up out of the caves.
Hunter-gatherers, foraging,
Hunter-gatherers, fireside chats, social fitness, eating, not sugar all the time because it wasn't abundantly available. What I like about the period of time that we're in now is that we are finally recognizing that there is so much of ancient wisdom that makes sense on a scientific level. The science is catching up with what our ancestors have known for thousands of years. And what I dislike is that we need to have it scientifically backed, because scientific studies can be biased and tipped in all sorts of different directions, depending on who's funding the study, who's the cohort of the study, what's their physical and mental health during the study, all of this stuff. I could pull apart any study that you show me. I also use them for my own benefit, sometimes saying, look, walking's good for you. But you can really sort of needle into studies and as I said, pick them apart. But we all need to be outside. We all need nature.
We're designed to be, right? And although there's an embracing of that, yes, it's fresh air, and exercise. But here's the biggest challenge I'm finding, and I'm guilty of it myself, and I must say this to you, sort of positive, negative. I get outside in the morning. It's the first thing I do. I leave my gym stuff by the side of the bed.
Yep.
I have a gym at home, but I have to go outside to get to the gym. It's all deliberate, right? And then I've got an outside area. So I love it when the weather's actually nice because I can do it outside.
Although it doesn't have to be nice.
I know, very true. But pouring rain, I'll leave the doors open, fresh air. Yeah. But I've got to do it slightly differently.
I hope occasionally you then, after your workout, you stand outside in the pouring rain and you do it in bare feet because you're getting the negative ions from the rain, which enhances your mood. Bare feet's
interesting. I don't do that enough. Yeah, this is what I want to tap into. But the biggest challenge I find, and if I'm finding it a challenge, then I know so many other people are, is social media and the smartphone kind of, and this extends to my daughters as well, right? Because I've been so looking forward to this conversation because I'm talking about the benefits because I can feel it myself. I know I feel better. I've set myself up for the day and it's habit forming. So and there's days when I don't feel like doing what I just said, but I'll do it because I know I feel better for it.
Yeah.
But there's a trend that's probably incredibly popular with too many people, which is to go on your phone as soon as you wake up and then you've lost half an hour because you're checking this and then you lose the time. How do you, as Julia Bradbury, how do you put all that out of your head and just say this is, and what is your actual routine?
So I've set myself a rule, and that rule is I do not get out of bed and check my phone first. I don't have the phone in the bedroom. I don't let my children.
So you eliminate it?
Eliminate it. My children don't have phones yet. My son is 13 and my daughters are 9.
Have you had any resistance there?
Yeah, of course, but I've held off, and at the moment it's manageable and still works. I tell them that it's not going to be until they're 16, and I hope to stand by that. There are a couple of things that are happening. First of all, for you, when or for somebody who looks at their phone first thing in the morning, you are instantly getting your dopamine response just on a roller coaster. That's the way the algorithms are designed. These smartphones are incredibly smart because they're outfoxing you and me. They are designed. So the algorithm knows, show me something about nature, show me a study about cancer, show me a motivational quote. It knows what to do. So it knows as soon as I go on, it goes boom. And I'm like, oh gosh, I need that for work. Oh gosh, let me save that one. I mean, I've got so many saved that I've never gone back to look at because the algorithm knows, they know, there's a science behind this. So you have to set yourself some rules. I did talk to somebody in broadcast the other week and she said, but I'm on the news desk and if somebody calls me, I said, you know what, there's this really clever thing on your phone where if it's a particular number, it can get through, everything else goes dead. So you can have an emergency number. So if it's the news desk with that 1 in 20 or 35 incidents of we're going into World War III or somebody's been shot or the president's dead or the prime minister, whatever it is, that person can get through to you, but nothing else gets through. You can do that. You can set that for yourself. What you do have to do is to recognize, in order to lead a healthy, positive, fulfilling life, you are going to have to sacrifice some things. And it's quite hard because you have to sacrifice the scrolling. You would probably have to sacrifice the box set of continually watching, late night. And have you noticed that streaming services in the last, I don't know how long it's been going on, let's say 5 years, it's probably been a little bit less than that. Now you don't even have to click for the next episode to happen because they've done the science. There's a lab out near Vegas and they've worked out human behavior and they know that if you get the first 2 seconds of the next episode, you're hooked in. Yeah. So you don't even have to...
Just one more. I've been guilty of it. I have no time.
But you don't even have to go, just one more. It's there. Yeah. And that's all designed to suck you in.
It's an addictive side of it.
It is, and I find that quite motivating to back off because I'm like,
you understand it though. Yeah, exactly.
But I go, you're not going to fool me. I'm not going to do that. You are not going to suck me in because I know that's what you're trying to do. And for me, it's much more important for me to be mentally alert, there for my children, feeling more positive, get that daylight, sort out my hormones. I had a hormone positive breast cancer. So I'm very, very motivated to take care of my health. And I don't think we talk enough about the fact that all of these things come under the banner of health. They don't come under the banner of leisure time. They don't come under the banner of, a little bit of what you fancy does you good. They don't come under the banner of, everything in moderation. All of that's crap. That is not, none of those things, I'll eat cake, but I only have it once a day. I'm sorry, if you're eating cake every single day, the way I was 3 times a day, your glucose levels are going up and up and up and up and up. And as you get older, you become less able to handle that glucose in your body, and you are heading to type 2 diabetes. Just that one piece of cake a day, or that one kind of fizzy pop
and
a day.
I live like that. My wife lives like that. I think we're bringing up our kids to be like that. So I'll catch them. I'll come into the kitchen and there's a bag of minstrels or something. Oh, this is the only thing I've eaten today, Dad. And I'm like, you had a donut yesterday. It's the only thing I had yesterday, Dad. And I'm going with that. And you have, from your lived experience perspective, just touching on the kind of almost the before and after of the breast cancer.
Yeah.
Are you saying that really shifted and your knowledge and understanding of what you were doing to now what you would absolutely not do?
Yeah, as soon as I started doing a deep dive into health, which I explored in my book, Walk Yourself Happy, and that book, by the way, wasn't meant to be about that. It was meant to be about mental health and walking. And then I got my cancer diagnosis and the book went on the back burner. And when I came back to the book, I went, right, how can I take the best possible care of myself going forward? How can I reduce the risk of reoccurrence? And how can I lead a healthier life? Because I was not leading a healthy life, despite doing all the walks on television and everything else.
That's what I was going to say, because I mean, I knew of you clearly before, and you certainly seemed healthy. Yeah, exactly.
I look thin, and I am slim, and I've never put on weight apart from a time in my 20s. So I'm that horrible human being that can eat all the brownies.
That's me as well. Yeah. But I'm running at 1,000 mile an hour.
Yeah, your adrenaline is going through the roof. Your cortisol is going through the roof. We are what you call, we are thin on the outside, fat on the inside, tofus or toffees. And that is damaging in itself. You are causing DNA damage. You are aging yourself. You are heading for some sort of burnout. And this, from the brilliant Dr. Peter Attia, this really hit home for me with the sugar, because I was this massive sugar addict. The difference between you and the person next door to you who is a type 2 diabetic that's got to the stage where they are now losing limbs. So you know that's one of the things that can happen with type 2 diabetes. You can start to lose digits, you can start to lose your toes, then it goes up to the leg. I have someone in my family that this is happening to. It's a really serious disease. You have an increased risk of cancers. You have an increased risk of all sorts.
And you wouldn't want any of this, right?
Other diseases because you've got type 2 diabetes. And the difference between you and this person is 1 teaspoon of sugar in the blood. So we all have glucose, fructose. We all have a teaspoon running throughout our body because we need it for energy. We do burn glucose, fructose for energy. As well as fats and as well as ketones as well. But if you tip it by just 1 teaspoon, you are doubling the amount that your body is capable of handling. And your liver starts to struggle, your insulin resistance becomes poor, and that's when inflammation kicks in, and that's your downward cascade of chronic illness. You take whatever flavor you want. The type 2 diabetes, the cardiovascular disease, sticky blood, they're talking about Alzheimer's, they're calling it type 3 diabetes, linked to a very high refined sugary carb diet. I mean, early days in that research, but certainly worth taking note of.
You're scaring me. You're frightening me. I mean, I think we are quite similar in context of the fact that I'm charging around. I live in the New Forest here in London. There's 1,000 things going on. And I take it for granted that I've always had a metabolism. And again, the guy that's hated by all his friends is like, one day if your metabolism changes, you'll be massive. It hasn't happened.
No.
But I do keep fit and I do try and manage my diet, but not to the point where there's plenty going in on a daily basis that really shouldn't. I want to talk to you about the almost like the mental health side of things. It feels like you were clearly and are super positive.
Yeah.
And a real kind of trailblazing personality, doing all these different things. But when you got diagnosed, where did you go, and what kind of coping mechanisms pulled you through that? And I know a big part of that is Walk Yourself Happy, but I'm also talking about, you mentioned meditation and so on. What are the key things that got you through such a tough period?
So it's interesting, I'm going through all sorts of testing with a clinic at the moment for my next book, and one of the tests is a psychological assessment, and you fill in a questionnaire and then you spend 2 hours with this brilliant psychologist who picked apart my answers. And there were 2 interesting things that came out from her point of view. My resilience score, this is her description, not my description. My resilience score was through the roof. She described it as Olympic. She said, I have this ability to turn a negative not just into a positive, but to thrive in that scenario. Somehow I find something.
That's a mindset.
To flip. My well-being, my overall well-being score was low, way lower than she would have liked. So the way that she put it to me is, had I seen the well-being score on its own, I'd have been very worried about you. Having seen the two scores next to each other and now spent this time with you, I'm not as worried, but what I would tell you is, because I see your ability to apply yourself with this resilience, I'm going to tell you to apply yourself to your well-being in the same way, because I know you have the ability to do it, because I can see it from your results and from talking to you. But you need to switch that and you need to focus on it.
So it's a conscious effort.
So it is a conscious effort. I think I am, as you said, naturally positive, and I'm like, I'll get through it. I can push through it. I've got this energy. And part of the Walk Yourself Happy movement and doing this, making my documentary that I made, Breast Cancer and Me, for ITV, part of that was a coping mechanism. And I could deflect a little bit, and I could almost look at me as one of my stories. Oh, there's this TV presenter and she's got breast cancer and she does all these walks and she's healthy on the outside and it was almost like I was another project. And that was a way of me coping by separating myself from the very real pain and fear that I went through when I was told you've got cancer. I'm now out of the other side, and I'm really working on the emotional side of me, the vulnerable side of me, and the side of me that has to acknowledge that I got cancer and anything else could happen to me. So how am I going to take care of myself in the best possible way, not just using this resilience tool? What other tools can I learn, and what else can I apply to calm myself, to survive and to move forward? I'd like this second half, the second act, to be calmer, more measured, less frantic, and more applied.
I can tell. And actually, you talk about almost like the second chapter. My experience of people I've been fortunate enough to talk to on Extraordinary Life Stories that have been through huge trauma or near-death experience, stared death in the face.
It's a shame we need that to make these changes.
Oh my God, you took the words out of my mouth. And they are the most alive people I've ever met, you included. Have you felt that? Do you now have that value on time and value on what you do, to the point where I'm super privileged to be talking to you, because you choose what you do now carefully, compared to, dare I say, a younger version of Julia? Oh,
the younger Julia, that the Hollywood correspondent running down red carpets, coming back to the UK, launching 3 television channels, working 7 days a week. Oh, I'd like to have children now. Oh, I can't have children. Let me do IVF. Oh, that didn't work. Let's do another round. Boom, 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 boom. Get through it. Get through it. You're absolutely spot on. Now it's more measured. Now it's the importance of the projects that I'm doing. Of course, I'm still ambitious, and of course, finances are still play an important role in my life. I've got 3 young children, and a mortgage. So yeah, of course, earning a living is still important. But I was talking to Chris Evans, the radio broadcaster, about this the other day, and as he said, every currency isn't money. There are so many other currencies. And one of the lines I use all too often is, if you don't make time for your health, you will be forced to make time for your illness. So it doesn't matter who you are and what you're doing and we're all motivated. We all need things. We all need to survive. We all need, to bring home the bacon, as it were. But if you continue really just pushing yourself 100% all the time, there's a very real chance that something's going to go wrong with you. And that could be a heart attack or a stroke or cancer or a breakdown. Then how do you take care of your family?
Yeah.
Then how do you deliver? Then how do you... You're useless. It's the cliche, oxygen mask needed.
And you may not be lucky enough to get past it. So then there's no turning back. Sitting here with you now, we both know that there's people that have been diagnosed and are not sat here. So there's a humbleness about that, but also slightly out of context. But I wanted to bring up success, because it's entwined with being happy. It's entwined with the fact that you beat cancer. You've got a successful broadcasting career, media career. But I think what's at the heart of this is your authenticity. And I'm conscious of time, because I feel like we've only just got warmed up, and I could talk to you for another half an hour.
We'll do another one.
But I'd love to. But I think that the authenticity is raw, and no one can ever criticize you for that. And then you're more than happy to stand by or justify, and even if you choose to. But you touched on 25-year career. We talked about mentoring. Sitting here now, with the maturity and perspective you get, looking back, if you like, and what's all around you, with the intelligence you've got, AI coming through and so on, what advice would you give to a young Julia, a young aspirational woman coming through, wanted to get into presenting?
So I would say that this is a wider open landscape than I ever had. With that, I would say garner a set of principles very early on. Give yourself a rule book. This is what I will do, this is what I won't do, this is what I believe in, this is what I don't believe in. You will be offered things for money that you might say, oh God, I need that money, yes, I'll do it. But it's against every principle going. You know, if a big plastics firm came up to me and offered me £1 million, I would be, forget it. You're poisoning the planet, you're poisoning humans, endocrine disrupting stuff, the pollution that goes into the air. Absolutely forget it. So you have to have a set of principles. You have to know, what is your message? Why do you want to be a presenter? I couldn't help anybody who said, I just want to be famous and, you know, that's what I want. There are so many influencers who come off a show like Love Island, get 1 million, 2 million, 3 million followers. Where are they now? Straight away, it's like burnout. Yes, they do the sun tanning deals and they do the holidays and they do the alcohol and they ride on this high. I would be surprised, I don't have the stats at my fingertips, but I'd be surprised if 1% of them are still here.
There's no purpose though, right?
But it's a platform. And then you take somebody like, and I can't remember his surname, that's terrible, but Chris, who's done the Modern Wisdom podcast.
Chris Williamson?
Yes, Chris
Modern
Williams.
Wisdom.
So, I mean, but he's an outlier. Superb podcast. He was a nightclub manager. He went on Love Island and he turned it and really... He used it as a springboard, and he's smart.
But he knew, I know this well, and it's so interesting you brought him up, that because I'm interested, because like how there's a guy that's all buff and nightclub and so on, but he aspired to get to Love Island and realised that was not his tribe, and had that horrible moment. In fact, it sent him down the spiral into depression. He was like, because he thought that's what he'd aspired to and he wasn't happy, but to then find his way through. And he's super intellectual.
Super intellectual. He is super, super bright. So you can use, be purposeful. There are things you can use as a springboard and as a pivoting point for sure. But sit in front of a camera, film yourself talking about something that you're passionate about. One of my very first interviews for Janet Street Porter, when I got a job on her channel, what you had to do was you had to sit for 1 minute and talk about anything you wanted down the barrel and do it for a minute. And the people that got through that and various other tests, they were the ones who made it to launch live TV. I can't even remember now what it was. I can't remember what I spoke about, but I managed it. I mean, it was for a minute, and it was, you need to be invested, you need to be authentic.
Passionate.
You need to be passionate, and you need to be eloquent, and practice in front of the cameras again and again and again until it does not bother you.
I bet you've done that loads. You're awesome to talk with. I wish we had longer.
Oh, thank you.
But I know you've had to give up, time out of a busy schedule to come and talk with me. So thank you, Julia.
It's an absolute pleasure. No, it's been great. Thank you.